Hey everybody, this is Bob Kudla from Trade Genius, and this is my podcast. And I want to talk to you about something a little bit different, but I'll loop it around to some stock trades. And it's the question of leverage. And I know what you're thinking. Leverage is taking on extraordinary amount of debt to leverage a position, to use other people's money, and things of that way. But it's that, but it's far more than that. And it's really fascinating. And all the wealthiest people in the world use leverage in one form or another. And I'm going to talk to you about the different ways in which we can use leverage in our lives to have a more fulfilling life and also a more profitable life. So I'm going to walk you through a story here over the next 15 or 20 minutes and hopefully help you understand what I'm talking about when I talk about leverage. So let's talk about the obvious one and let's apply this to our life. So you're born into a family. So the first leverage that you have, and I'm only talking about leverage you can control, is your family wealthy? Do they have means? Are you going to be left with an inheritance? And one of the ways in which people obviously become wealthy is that you inherit the wealth. And so you look at some people in their life, you have generational wealth, and it passes on from one person to another to another. You can control it kind of because you're in the family, but it's not nothing you can really leverage on your own. So that's one thing to leverage. But the other parts that you leverage in your life is that as you are growing up, if you notice the people that are popular, the people who are outgoing, the people who are connectors, they're actually leveraging their social skills. And it's one of the very first important things that I think you learn in your life is to even if you're an introvert, there's ways in which you can leverage your connections. And and it's so important when you're trying to leverage connections is because this is where you find people that can complement you, find people that are useful to you or you are useful to them, and this is how you build a network over time. And so one of the things that you need to start doing in your life is you always need to connect and you need to leverage. Now, if you're an extrovert, it's easy. You go to social gatherings, you do certain things, but technology is a wonderful thing. And this is where social media and the internet and places like LinkedIn are very, very helpful to you. And the other thing, too, which is really fascinating, too, is you have to leverage the right relationships. So, one of my business partners has a rule that he may have 50 friends, but he determines which are the five or six friends and five or six contacts that'll help move him and move his needle forward in life. So you got to find the people when you're doing these connections. And I'm talking very Machiavellian here. I'm not talking, you know, oh Bob, that's so crass. It's like if you're trying to leverage relationships, those relationships need to help you take the next step forward, no matter what it is you're trying to do, financially, socially, um, you know, be a better servant in your community, whatever it is. You have to find the right people. You have to find people that are going to help you generate light and not heat, and not people that are going to suck from you, but people that are going to help you grow and move forward. So it's one of the first things that you need to do and you need to learn is really how to leverage those relationships. The second thing you have to learn is you have to learn to leverage information. When I'm talking about information, I'm talking about in this day and age, you have everything at your fingertips. So in the past, it said, you needed to study something. I think um, it's like 1,000 hours you need to put into something, and you could be considered an expert on that. And that's all well and good if it's something that you like, that you have a great deal of passion for, and that you consider it's one of your obsessions, if you will, and or your vocation. But that's no longer necessary. And so one of the things that I do in my life is I like to leverage information. So I draw it in from a broad source. My background was doing business development, was doing acquisitions, and now as a stock trader and running a stock trading room, is that I need to really have a broad understanding of what's happening in the world so I could be like Wayne Gretzky and find out where the hockey puck is going. And so that you need to then use the sources that are available to you, via the internet and via, you go out there and you look at Khan Academy and you can learn how to do math. You go out to MIT, all their courses are out there. There's people like and services that we buy, even though we provide a trading service, there's services that we buy to provide us with additional information to help us make us better traders and have better tools in order for us to serve our customers better. And so that's the other thing that you need to do is leverage your information. And then tying both those two together and the reason why college has become so popular for people is that even though I think we can have a whole podcast on the value of colleges and the University of Education, is that you have a situation where when you go to university, you're expanding your social circle. So you're leveraging more people around the world. In the same environment, you're leveraging information. So you have an environment now where you can have access to far greater people, and also you could build a connection that's going to take you and push you out into life at a next level higher. I grew up in a blue collar industrial town. I had a limited social circle. And then when I went to college, I leveraged a wider world. I also leveraged the information that I learned, and it put me in a situation where I now had a broader perspective, and then put myself in a position where I realized there was a wider world out there for me, and it lifted my social class up, one or two levels higher than what I was born into. And so it's very important when you look at education is that you should get both things out of there at the least possible cost. And that way you're leveraging your education and you're leveraging the information and you're leveraging the people that you meet. And once you're out in that, then you're then going to move into the next level. And that is now you are an employee. And one of the things that you learn very fast as an employee is someone is leveraging you. So when you're thinking about leverage, okay, you think about, how do I, as an employer now, how can I grow a business? Because as an employee, you know that your employer now paying you to produce output in greater that he could do himself. And so an employer will get together as he grows his employee base. He's leveraging and he's optimizing his business by producing more output than he pays you. And so you're leveraging people. So when you have a company, when you bring in somebody on board, is that you bring them on board for one or two reasons. One is you have to take care of a statutory environment where it's the cost of business, or you're bringing somebody on to drive business at a higher level. And so when you're trying to drive your business higher and faster and grow, you're looking for somebody that you can leverage, that you can then grow your business. And then obviously a corollary to that is that you have a business model that works. And let's say that you own a restaurant and you said, this is a really great concept. All right. You can only grow your business in one location for so large and for so long before it saturates itself. And so then you start opening up different locations. So then you leverage by expanding the business model. And so that's how other people leverage and grow. So they're looking to either franchise their businesses, or they acquire a business that's like-minded with them, or they simply do it the old-fashioned way and they expand by location, by location, by location, by location. So that's another way people get wealthy. And then I came from the software industry. And in the software industry, we leverage by leveraging what we call IP, that is intellectual property. And so you leverage by intellectual property by you created something that you then get to replicate at a lower marginal cost. And you're looking at Microsoft as your classic example of that. So Microsoft built something, it cost them, I'm going to make the number up, let's say $1 billion to produce the first operating system unit. And then after that, all marginal operating systems cost them $1. And so therefore you start leveraging your intellectual property. So I'll give you an example in my own life of doing that. So two things. One is about 15 years ago, when my daughter was just first going to go to school, we were introduced to the concept of Amazon's Kindles, not their Kindle series, but their Amazon books. And you can go ahead and you can write a book and you can put it out on Amazon, and then they would manage all the publishing for you. So if you like to write, you can get on Amazon, and it's called Amazon Publishing, KDP, Kindle Publishing, and you can go ahead and write a book. I wrote a book. It literally took me 8 hours to write it. It was a subject that I was very interested in. I had it all in my head. I literally sat down at a computer and I typed it out. I went ahead and I paid somebody $100. I leveraged somebody else's skill to put a cover on for me. It cost me $100. I used Fiverr. I pushed it out there, and I promoted it through a marketing company. I leveraged outsourcing. And then for the next 6 years, I didn't have to pay for my daughter's private school because the book generated enough revenue across the entire world. I was able to publish across the entire world, 8 hours of my time, and I was generating between $600 and $800 a month to have this book read by other people. And I did it for 6 years, and then the subject matter was no longer germane. Sales dropped off, and I didn't repeat it because I got busy doing other things. But if you have a skill in writing, there's no reason why you shouldn't be out on Kindle Direct publishing and pushing out short stories or factual books or something of interest. The second thing we did was we were trading futures, and we stumbled across a couple really good ideas, and we were able to write some code out, and we pushed it out on TradingView and out on the Seer charts, and we were able to market it and sell it. And it's one of the components now that we use inside of Trade Genius for, one of our algorithms slash indicators. But you built it once, and it's something you offer to many people. And it's an incredible, incredible way in which you can leverage your skill set. And so when you think about these things, you know, you leverage your skills, you leverage your information, you leverage your relationships. Obviously, if you're born rich, you're going to leverage your parents' wealth. You leverage your intelligence. You leverage your social skills. There are so many different ways in which you can leverage yourself and drive yourself forward in the world. And then one of the things I want to talk about today is some of the things that are being leveraged today that in which you can make money on. And so the first one I want to talk to you about is something that most of you that probably listen to me should be pretty familiar with, and that is True Social and a company called DWAC. And I'm going to put it out there. So DWAC. Okay, it's called Digital World Acquisition Corporation. This is the company in which Trump and David Nunes are leveraging. They're leveraging their political point of view, and also to leverage like-minded people to come together to be a political force. And it's a great company, and it's a great idea. and we're going into a political season. And this company right now has already done a couple moves up to $100. It does these impulses. So and when it first opened, it shot up to over like $170. It came back down to $45. And when that pushes back up, it get pushed up to 90. It came back down to 70s. It pushed back up into the 90s again. It came back down and fell into high 70s, pushed up to almost 100, fell back to the 70s and pushed back up to 100. This time it fell all the way back to our range trader buy area. So one thing Trade Genius does, and if you're interested in joining us, is go to tradelikeagenius.com. You can check out the specials that we run most of the time. But we have an algorithm called the range trader that looks for areas which you can buy the dip. It came all the way back down to the 60s. We bought into there, okay, and we just rode it up into the 70s. We bought it again. It just took another quick profit, and it's setting itself up again for another run. So if you're interested in DWAC, it's bull flagging as of today. It's the 22nd of March, and it could probably push up into the mid 70s. If it clears that, it's clear air for it to come back up and make a move to 100 again. So that's DWAC. A trade that we actually entered today is it is called CFVI, CF Acquisition Corp. Same model as True Social, but this is really going after the YouTube market, or the market for videos. And right now it's setting up. It's a beautiful consolidation, and people are starting to buy this dip. Money flow is moving up to the overbought area, which is where you want it to go. That means that there are more people buying it when it's going up than selling it when it's going down. And it's right at a point now where if it crosses over and closes over $12, it's going to make an initial run to 13, and then the next area it's going to be around $16. So I think these are two areas in which you can leverage the environment today. And so I think some of the other leverages around consumer goods, people growing out their business models and things of that nature, I think we're going to start getting some retractions there. But these are two that you want to go take an eye out on, and start putting on your watch list. And then, of course, finally, people are leveraging real estate. They're leveraging margin for stock trading and things of that nature. But I want to talk to you about other things. Those things are pretty known to people. They're also fraught with a lot of risk. That there's a lot of downside to that kind of leverage as well. The other leverage that I talked about are usually there's much more benefit than downside to those type of leveraging, because you're leveraging skills and information and people and your intellectual property, and those things I think will carry you further than always trying to take the big bet, leveraging real estate or leveraging your financial condition. And so I thought I'd share that with you today. It was on my mind, and I wanted to just go ahead and throw that out at you, and get your thoughts on that. But always think you can only grow yourself so much, but you need to be a force multiplier, and you need to leverage these other components of your life in order for you to have a more fulfilling life, and also to leverage and grow wealth for yourself over time. Appreciate you listening to me, and I'll come back at you again soon. Thanks. Bye.